Tonight, we bring you a story that's sending shockwaves through the corridors of power. Elon Musk's Doge task force has just begun its first wave of government audits, and what they're uncovering, well, it's enough to make any tax-paying American's blood boil. We're talking about billions, no, actually trillions of dollars in wasteful spending, all hidden in plain sight. And the establishment's in full panic mode, and for good reason. With just a small team of IT experts, Doge has already outperformed thousands of government bureaucrats who've been looking the other way for decades. And speaking of studies, there was one in 2024. It revealed nearly half of all adults in the U.S. have high blood pressure. And according to the CDC, only about 1 in 4 actually have it under control, but there's good news. You can take control of your heart health, and it doesn't have to be complicated. That's why I started using this incredible product to help manage my blood pressure naturally, and it does get pretty high in this show. Just go to boostwithgary.com and get up to 40% off during their special. Take the first step towards managing your blood pressure safely and naturally at boostwithgary.com. Okay, folks. We have President Trump in the Oval Office just 3 hours ago. Elon Musk posting this to his millions upon millions of followers. And we're sharing it with our millions right now.
That's what I consider an exemption. Talk about widespread fraud and abuse.
Oh, yeah. Tremendous fraud. There's tremendous fraud. And it's hard to believe that you can have that kind of fraud. You're talking about are you talking about what? Wait. Which are you talking? You're talking about with regard to all of the investigations that are going on about this stupidity. What we're going to do is tomorrow I'm having a news conference. I'm going to read to you some of the names that hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars have been given to. And if you tell me that we should be giving money to those things, those entities, I think you'll probably have to leave as a reporter because you're not very talented. When you look at the kind of money, billions and billions of dollars being thrown away illegally, and there's no chance. I mean, I say it in front of our attorney general. There's no chance that there's not kickbacks or something going on. When you give millions and millions of dollars to somebody that stands to look at something for 15 minutes and walks away with millions of dollars, that money's coming back in some form. And that's only one form of corruption. The biggest thing is what they do to our country. They're taking massive amounts of money and spending it on items. I went through a list of 200 expenditures that were made, and I found 3 that looked like they were reasonable. Okay, 3. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff. And I want to commend Elon because he's done a fantastic. He doesn't need this. You know, he's abused by you people every day. He's found more things than anybody could find. I think he's got the credibility to do it. I know he does. And it's his group of people. You know, they started off with 12. I call them 12 geniuses. They started off with 12 and they went to 20 and 25. And now they're up to almost 100. People are joining to help them. This is a massive fraud that's taken place.
And you know who needs to be in that Doge agency? Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower. Yeah, if you guys could help me get his name in front of Elon Musk and President Trump, I'm doing my best. But we need to get Zach Voorhees on the case because he knows how to deconstruct all of the codes and everything that's happening. And he's certainly helped this channel tremendously. And we want to see him elevated to the position where he needs to be seen and be the most effective. We've also got this. President Trump, he has found more. You're talking about Elon Musk. He's got the credibility to do it with this group of people, now almost 100. And here we have this. Ian Miles Chong, the Department of Defense, paid $32,000 to replace 25 coffee cups and hundreds of thousands of dollars for soap dispensers. Doge is needed. In October 2024, a 2-year audit by the Defense Department Inspector General found Boeing overcharged the Air Force by 8,000% for soap dispensers at the service branch. They paid $149,072 over market price for of a selected 46 spare parts that were scrutinized for the audit. The report found the Air Force overpaid about $1 million for 12 of them for its C-17 transport planes. That followed a 2018 congressional inquiry that revealed the Air Force was spending $1,300 for each reheatable coffee cup on its KC-10 aircraft, and then replacing them instead of repairing them when their handles broke. Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, he found the Air Force spent $32,000 in replacing 25 cups. $32,000 to replace a coffee cup. Think about that, okay? The party's over. I mean, our government's been getting fleeced, and you have been getting fleeced. You guys are paying all these taxes. I mean, we're in bad shape, and thankfully President Trump's team is on the case. Okay, we're not done yet. Elon Musk, 20 hours ago, posting this, just it looks like an angry emoji. In 2022, they found the federal government accountability office found what? Is that trillion? Is that trillion? 247 trillion? Wait, yeah, that's trillion. That's even, how can that even be possible? 247. Am I reading that right, guys? That's $247 trillion in improper payments made across 82 programs. Holy cow. Including $81 billion from Medicaid and $47 billion from Medicare and $250 billion in 1 year that they know and publicly reported. No, that's billion, $247 billion. Pardon me. I see all the zeros. I'm just going, what? How many zeros are there? I mean, is it a billion? Is it a trillion? What's the deal here? Oh my goodness. Yeah, have another sip, Franchi. Okay. Elon Musk saying 8 hours ago, as it becomes clear that Doge is working, you will see the long-term Treasury bill yields fall. Okay, so Elon Musk making a prediction now. And he says, and all Americans will benefit from lower interest payments. Notice he says all. Okay, he's not saying the black Americans or the white Americans or the Latino Americans or the gay Americans. He's saying all Americans because President Trump is for everyone. And all the actions, regardless of what you see in the media and the outrage from the radical left when they stage their ridiculous protests, this is for all Americans, and all Americans are actually celebrating this. I mean, social media is erupting with people from the left who are going, wait a second, I didn't know this. What? Like, this is insane. And because we have freedom of speech on X and because the censorship veil has been destroyed, now truth is starting to flow freely and the American people are seeing what's really happening in this country. All Americans will benefit from lower interest payments on mortgages, small business debt, credit card, and other loans. So this is just the beginning. We're only like 3 weeks into this administration, folks. We have 4 years of winning to expect. But of course, there's going to be opposition. House Democrats, 24 hours ago, no one voted for eliminating the Department of Education to pay for tax cuts for billionaires. You see how they frame this? See, it's all BS. It's all crock. They always frame it. It's for the wealthy, tax cuts for the rich. Like this is all smoke and mirrors. But people see through it. Unfortunately, you have the deceived masses. There's a lot of them, and they continue to take the bait. Just pray for those people. House Democrats continues. No one voted for cuts to Social Security so that Tesla can continue to pay zero in federal taxes. Really? I'd like to know like how many other corporations are paying zero in federal taxes. And if they're paying zero in federal taxes, can somebody please point me to their accounting team? I would love to know what they're doing. Okay, because if they're doing that, then it's certainly legal and more people need to do it. Because the way that they're spending the tax money, the government shouldn't see a freaking penny from anybody. All right, let's keep going. And then, of course, they say no one voted for Elon Musk. Actually, we did. We did vote for Elon Musk. He was on the campaign trail, okay, night after night, hosting his own events and his own rallies, going to MAGA events with President Trump, making promises that Donald Trump did not refute and Donald Trump agreed with. Okay, so when these people say no one voted for Elon Musk, no, we did, in fact, vote for Elon Musk. So don't believe any of the garbage that comes out of the House Democrats. All right. So this was 24 hours ago. This is when Elon Musk was in the Oval Office, and they were quote tweeting ACYN, which is another account I follow on X. And this is what Elon Musk said.
That's what democracy is all about. The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
That's what democracy is all about. Can you believe? You know what I'm happy about? At least the House Democrats, they quote tweeted that clip. So all of their people who are deceived are even getting a dose of truth. So they're doing themselves a disservice when they actually repost Elon's own words, because there's a lot of common sense there. Speaking of common sense, here's somebody who doesn't have any. Whoopi Goldberg claims that no one elected Elon Musk. See, this is the narrative that's being pushed out from the House Democrats. It finds its way onto the lips and the forked tongues of those clucks on The View.
And since okay, just before we even say anything, I want to say over the last decade, last 10 years, Musk companies, SpaceX and Tesla were awarded at least $18 billion in federal contracts, according to spending data. And since the president's election, his net worth has increased $64 billion, or nearly 25%. So, yeah, I'm going to say, you want to cut something? Cut some of the stuff you're taking out. Yeah. Because, I get that there's fat everywhere, and yes, we'd all like to see less of it. But what you're doing is a lot more than just cutting fat. You're giving people information that they should not have because they're not the people whose information it is.
Yeah.
So, and nobody elected you.
Yeah,
That's the part. That's
the main part. Whoopi, to your point, Whoopi, about all these government contracts, the billions of dollars that his companies have, his 6 companies have with the U.S. government. What is also very interesting is the cutting that he has done with the federal agencies. Those very same agencies have 32 continuing investigations, complaints, or enforcement actions against his companies. Mm-hmm. Those are the agencies and the people that he is cutting. So all of it is inuring to his benefit. And what is really rich to me, again, is that he is not elected, and he is talking about our American democracy. A man who grew up...
It's our republic, by the way.
In South Africa during the apartheid era, benefited from apartheid. And apartheid is the very antithesis to our American democracy, because in South Africa today, there is, 81% of South Africans' population are Black Africans. Yet only 4% of those Black Africans own the land. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is the person that's supposed to be teaching us about democracy.
Well, and the main thing he leaned into was he kept saying, this is all public record.
Okay, just before we even say anything, I want to say over the last decade, last 10 years, Musk...
Okay, yeah, enough of that. Sorry, didn't mean to repeat it. But again, that's what they say over there on The View, and the narrative is continuing to be pushed through the mainstream sources. USAID amused 11 hours ago. The swamp is deep. One of the activist judges blocking Trump's agenda, Judge John Bates, is married. Oh, it makes sense. It all becomes clear. Judge John Bates is married to the founder of a USAID-funded NGO. Carol Rees is a Democrat lawyer who started Hope for Children in Ethiopia, a longtime USAID grant recipient. Hat tip to Pepe's grandma on that. The wife of a judge blocking the Trump administration is a USAID grant recipient. I wonder what the pillow talk is in that house, right? And then we have this from Real America's Voice. Oh, yes, I love it. It's Rand Paul. Oh, man, I love the Paul family. Real America's Voice. Congress needs to vote rescinding USAID. Watch Republicans like a hawk. Let's listen to Dr. Paul.
News is it can be done by. Ultimately, what they're doing at USAID is going to require Congress to rescind that money. So my hope is they send half of it back or most of it back to us and say, we're not going to spend it. But then Congress, to make this all lawful and legal, is going to have to vote on what's called a rescission package. But the good news is it can be done by simple majority privilege vote, meaning there's no filibuster. So if the Trump administration says we're only going to spend half of the USAID money, or we're only going to spend a tenth of it, we're going to give 80, 90% back, a simple majority, which would mean only Republicans in the Senate and the House can rescind that money and we can start saving it. So people need to realize this isn't the end of the deal. Doge is the beginning. Congress has to act. And you have a lot of feckless Republicans up here who, if you watch closely, love USAID, love all the welfare, love all the foreign aid. And so we have a big fight on our hands, and the people who watch your show need to realize they need to watch like a hawk their Republican representatives and make sure they will actually vote to cut this spending when it comes back. Ultimately,
it is time. You got to watch everybody. Everybody. Okay, there's so much more here. Doge, okay, I believe we played this yesterday, but it really bears repeating because there's a lot of people in government who go in like with nothing and they walk out like millionaires. But Doge has a solution for that.
Actually, who
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million,
right,
etc.?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But they seem to be mysteriously, they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, we just.
And also, could you mention?
Yeah, all these people are getting rich. Why? Well, we're going to find out soon enough. And then we have this 23 hours ago, whatever they're paying Scott Jennings at CNN to be on Newsnight with Abby Phillips is not enough. The nonsense this alpha has put up with every single night is unbelievable. Let's check this out.
Number one. Number two, a couple things. Number one, you guys are way out over your skis with accusations and innuendo. You have no way. I mean, what you're essentially alleging would be the biggest corruption in any of our lifetimes. You have no way in the world of making those accusations in a credible way, but yet you're out here doing it. Number one. Number two, on the Treasury Department.
I just wanted to clarify, because I also think you're accusing me of saying that these things are happening. I'm just saying.
No, did you hear what they just said?
They literally just said.
But I was going to let you finish.
The biggest corruption we've ever seen.
Hold on, Bakari. Scott, what I said was that Elon Musk's companies were being investigated by the government. The people investigating him have been fired. Their offices disbanded. Those are both facts. So the question is, how do we know that Elon is not benefiting from it? And the answer is.
Oh, but here's a question. How many of those investigations were politically motivated because he was supporting President Trump? Right? More lawfare? Yeah. He opens up Twitter, renames it X, and frees speech on social media, stole the narrative away from people like this on CNN. Yeah, of course there's going to be a lot of retaliatory investigations against him. And maybe that's why these people were fired. Yeah, see, they don't bring that up.
We don't know.
But if you're going to accuse me of that, please, Scott, tell me what I said that was incorrect.
You just said that Elon Musk is working at the behest of the president in what would amount to the biggest corruption scheme to enrich himself.
What did I say that was incorrect?
We've ever seen. And I think you're out over your skis.
Was he under investigation by the FAA?
I think you guys are
What's
overblowing.
under investigation by?
Before you
but let me
blanket you
finish.
guys, I made it very clear based on images and data and the transparency that we have that USAID's resources that have been halted in place are resulting in massive waste.
And why?
So-
Because Marco
so what
Rubio
should
issued
be-
a waiver. He issued
so
a
what
waiver
should
on the
be
first day
done
for all
with the fact
humanitarian
that-
and medicine.
But
So
right
why
now-
aren't they delivering it?
Right now-
Whose fault is
Oh,
it?
there you go. Why aren't they delivering it? The waiver was there. They recognize it, and they try to fix it and make sure it doesn't get out of control. Because maybe there are some groups at USAID under the State Department now that were doing some good things. Maybe they should continue. But I think that, Doge will have the final say. President Trump will have the final say. Remember, this is a pause on spending. It's not like forever. So that it's all so they can review it. And Marco Rubio said, "Okay, we're gonna issue vouchers for these companies or these NGOs so they can continue." And completely disarming the arguments from the left. And then here is a Christopher C. Cuomo. It blows my mind to see this guy. Now he's on News Nation, and he's just sounds so different these days, doesn't he? Maybe it's just the paycheck.
Business. What a moment we had today. I have never seen anything like it. That presser was one of the most informative of the Trump era. And no small irony, it wasn't him doing most of the talking. But we learned more about what the administration is doing and how it responds to legitimate and, yes, some illegitimate scrutiny. Elon Musk, center stage, very different than the head troll on his social media trash site. He had his son playing along on his shoulders, and it was reminiscent of the JFK days with John, if only because of that. But there was also this spirit trying to be inculcated of let's do things.
I had that same feeling about John when I saw this moment. I really did. It's funny that he brings it up. I think a lot of people felt that way.
Things different. Let's try to be a new generation here. Of course, Trump is part of the older generation, but Musk is not. And he held forth on how he is trying to change the way government does business. Take a listen.
The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. What are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build. Because if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation.
I've never heard so much said, and yet the president is just sitting there listening. It is completely unorthodox. But does that mean it's bad? No. I know the game is about reflexively attacking the side that you hate or anything that is different. But let's be honest. Does anyone think a majority of this country does not want government waste eliminated? Of course, we know there was an ugly and obvious split on who people thought could better affect change in this past election, but changing how well the government works was clearly on the ballot. And the obvious conclusion is nothing changes if nothing changes. So the order of the day was get smaller. And Trump did his part directing government agencies to let Musk and his minions in, to work on reducing the side of federal government by reducing certain expenditures and workforce. For example, they can only hire 1 employee for every 4 who leaves government. The problem for me in the room wasn't Musk or even the man seated quietly at the desk, but some of the pushback from the media, which really seemed to be a defense of the status quo. And the Democrats acting the fool outside and online about every attempt at change being made by Musk and Trump. Instead of getting the message, you need better ideas than he has.
Yeah, better ideas, and they'll never have them. There is so much waste, fraud, and abuse and overspending in our government, and the Democrats never wanted us to know about it. Judge Janine going into it on Fox as well.
What's happening?
You know what this is like? This is like saying that a prosecutor, if that prosecutor sees fraud and abuse, shouldn't
This is not
be,
fraud and abuse,
can I
Judge
finish?
Jeanine.
Let me finish. If you see fraud and abuse, you should just ignore it. Here's the bottom line. There is so much fraud, abuse, overspending, and corruption in our government, and the Democrats never wanted us to know about it, never gave us the ability to look at it. And so now we have a man who had 4 years out of office to say, you know what, there's a lot more going on than we know. And all of a sudden now, and this isn't rocket science, you go in, it's like bringing in a forensic accountant and saying, can you look at these books? No one is losing anything. There's a temporary hold. We're going to decide what we're going to do with this. And in 3 weeks, they've unearthed incredible things that the American people are disgusted with. We're paying for transgender operas in foreign countries, having nothing to do with promoting American interests. And all of a sudden, they want to say, well, you know, this is all for Elon's billionaire buddies. Got nothing to do with that. It's about saving my hard-earned taxpayer dollars. And in the end, they want to turn it into something that it's not. But this has gone on for years. And finally, we're taking a look at the books. And now we've got a judge to say, you can't look anymore. I want to stop you from looking at the books. How un-American is that? That we can't even decide where there's fraud and abuse. And people, 83% of the people in this country wanted change in this government. And as Elon Musk said, it's about competence and caring. And you know what? I care about the fraud in this government, and they're unearthing it they've only been through Doge, through USAID. Wait.
So the numbers we've seen tonight are staggering. Doge's initial findings exposed a web of waste and corruption that even the most hardened cynics couldn't have imagined. From $57,000 for climate change studies in Sri Lanka to millions funneled through USAID to questionable NGOs, the depth of this financial cesspool seems bottomless. But here's what's really interesting. House Democrats aren't just nervous, they're terrified. Why? Because for the first time, we have a team that can't be bought, can't be intimidated, and won't back down. So here's tonight's question for the comment section. When Doge exposes trillions in government waste, should those responsible face criminal charges, or is firing them enough? Stand strong against government waste with our bold MAGAvengers gear at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.